All right, so we're back today with another artifact in our collection. It's definitely an artifact. It's utilitarian. I don't know if I'd go so far to say it's an interesting artifact, but it's a pretty neat artifact. It's got a neat story to it. So working here on site, some of the other contractors at times will be in the field. They'll find something of interest. They bring it into us. We've tried to explain in the past not to do that, but they continue to do that. And so what we do is we try to get put on a map where they found it. If we can, we'll go out and do a GPS point of where they found it. But this is one of those artifacts that came in. And I'm here today with Mr. Heath. Mr. Heath is one of our volunteers. And how long have you been volunteering for us?
Oh, probably 10 to 12 years.
10 or 12 years you've been out here. And you actually have a special connection with the site too. What was that?
I've lived here until I was 17 years old, and which gives me a lot of knowledge, and especially now that I enjoy coming back to, I can remember some of the fond memories that I've had of this particular area.
Now, what was the name of the community that you lived in?
It was the Hawthorne community, which was consists of no more than a general store, the post office, and the Masonic Lodge. And how I was sort of close to Hawthorne is my grandfather was the rural letter carrier, one of the rural letter carriers out of the Hawthorne post office for 30 years. He retired in July of 1939, and as we don't know exactly the year he started, but figuring the 30 years, he would have had to have started in sometime approximately 1908. And he said that for the short time, he actually delivered the mail with, well, it was horse and buggy in his day, but all the horses and all the buggies were gone when I came along.
So you've got a strong connection to the site, and so what happened was they brought this artifact into us, and we all sat around the table looking at it for quite a while. We couldn't figure out what it was, but then you walked in, and you were able to tell us exactly what this was, didn't you?
Sure.
So
yeah.
can you tell me what this is?
Well, this is actually a step for, we call it a buggy. Some people call it a carriage, and but this step, this would extend out about the width of the buggy about 3 feet, and it had a step on either side of the buggy. And the reason I say this is a horse and buggy step is because of the thin metal here. These steps are still used today on some of the heavy farm equipment and some of the 18-wheelers and this sort of thing. But this particular step, you'll find out was, if you see one now, it's thicker than this. And this was used back when, well, the country doctor and the women with the hoop skirts, you know, and they could step up, and I've heard it called different things. I've heard it called a step, a booster, a lift, but it's an instrument to step up on, and you'll be up even with the buggy seat.
And you said your grandfather had a buggy, and
Granddaddy had this was Granddaddy McLean had a buggy, and it stayed in we call it the tool shed, and it stayed in, and it was still there in 1950. But occasionally, when all the cousins would come, we'd get it out, and some of the older cousins were stronger. They would play like a horse or a mule. They would pull us around in the yard. In the buggy, it was a 2-seater, and the buggy stayed in the tool shed. It was still there in 1950, but probably my grandmother raised turkeys, and that was, I can basically remember a few turkeys there, but it was well, like I say, we'd get it out when some of the family get-togethers, and some of the older cousins would pull us around in the buggy. It wasn't very heavy, and the wheels were probably no more than inch and a quarter in width, and the diameter was probably it may have been probably 40 inches, I expect, or maybe even a little more. And the buggy was real light. You could roll it almost like a wheelbarrow, you know, out on level ground. So, but primarily what the buggy was used for from maybe 1910, it was in the tool shed, and they were using it for hen nest. The hen would hop up into the bed of the carriage, and Mama had I forget, I think there were 2 nests in the buggy, and she'd put a glass egg in there, and those hens were using that buggy as a hen nest up until 1950, and at the beginning of SRP, that buggy was still in the buggy shed there. And now whatever happened to it, I wasn't home at that time, but it was still being used, but it was being used as a hen nest.
So your mother probably would have stepped up on the...
Mother would have stepped up on it, and yeah.
And got up in there and got the eggs out. So.
And I think they used it, to pull it, it was a horse, but horses, in my lifetime, we never had a horse. It was always mules.
So that's a little bit about our buggy step. You know, it's maybe not one of our most interesting artifacts. Every artifact is important. This one has an important story to tell. You know, and thank you to Mr. Heath for kind of filling us in, helping us to identify it, because we sat around for hours looking through old Sears catalogs trying to find out what this is. But you know, he definitely pointed us in the right direction. It's great to have this in our collection, and that's our artifact for this week.